Car dealership ignores elderly man. 1 year later, Chen sat in his office, gazing out the window of luxury motors. The dealership was thriving, a stark contrast to the toxic environment it had once been. Customers of all backgrounds walked in with confidence, knowing they'd be treated with respect. Sales were up, and employee morale had never been higher. Just as Robert leaned back, satisfied, Michael called. "Dad, have you seen the news?" Robert frowned.
No, why?
A new luxury dealership is opening right across the street. And guess who's behind it? Robert's stomach clenched as Michael continued. Derek Thompson, a new rival. The grand opening of Titan Motors was flashy, bright banners, celebrity endorsements, and huge discounts. But Robert knew Thompson too well. He wasn't just trying to start a business, he was trying to take revenge. At first, luxury motors didn't suffer. Loyal customers stuck around, praising Robert's honest approach. But soon, Thompson's dealership started spreading rumors. Luxury Motors cars are overpriced. They only pretend to care about customers. Titan Motors offers better deals. Go there instead. Sales began to dip. Employees worried. Robert knew he had to act fast. The customer that changed everything. One afternoon, a man in a simple flannel shirt and old jeans walked into Luxury Motors. The sales team greeted him warmly. He hesitated before speaking. "I want to buy 3 cars. The staff helped him patiently, answering all his questions. Eventually, he smiled. "You guys are different. Over at Titan Motors, they barely acknowledged me." At checkout, he handed over his business card. Liam Carter, senior executive, Titan Motors parent company. Everyone froze. Robert stepped forward. "I assume this isn't just a casual visit?" Liam chuckled. "I wanted to see how you treat customers firsthand. I've received too many complaints about Titan Motors customer service. Looks like I have a decision to make." A week later, Titan Motors parent company fired Derek Thompson for unethical business practices. Without him, the dealership collapsed within months. The final lesson. One evening, Robert locked up the dealership and stood by his car, the same Mercedes-Benz that started it all. He glanced at Margaret's photo on the dashboard. "You were right again, my love. Character always wins." Luxury Motors continued to thrive, not because of revenge, but because Robert had built something worth believing in. And that was a legacy no competitor could ever take away. Luxury Motors had become the most respected dealership in the city. Robert's vision of fairness and respect had turned it into a symbol of trust. But time was catching up with him. At 74, he had begun to feel the weight of his years. Michael often insisted, "Dad, it's time to slow down." Robert wasn't ready to let go just yet. One morning, as he sipped his coffee in his office, his assistant knocked. "Sir, there's someone here to see you." Robert looked up to find a familiar but unexpected face, Blake. A surprising return. Blake, the arrogant salesman who once humiliated Robert, now stood in front of him looking different. Gone was the cocky smirk, the expensive suit, the air of superiority. Instead, he looked tired, humble, and nervous. "Mr. Chen, I know I don't deserve a minute of your time, but I need a job." Robert leaned back in his chair. "Blake, the last time we spoke, you treated me like I wasn't worth your time. Why should I believe you've changed?" Blake sighed. "After you fired me, I struggled. I bounced from one dealership to another, but my reputation followed me. Nobody wanted to hire me." He swallowed hard. "And then my wife got sick. Medical bills piled up. I lost everything." Robert studied him. This wasn't the same man who once laughed at him. This was someone who had been humbled by life. "Tell me, Blake," Robert said. "Why do you want to work here?" Blake met his gaze. "Because I finally understand what you were trying to teach us. A dealership isn't just about selling cars. It's about treating people right." For a long moment, Robert was silent. Then he made a decision. "You start on Monday, but you'll begin as a junior associate. You'll have to prove yourself." Blake's eyes welled up with gratitude. "Thank you, sir. You won't regret this." Building a legacy. Over the next few months, Robert watched as Blake transformed. He worked hard, treated customers with respect, and even trained new hires. Slowly, he earned the trust of his colleagues. One day, Michael visited.
Dad, it's time.
You need to step back. Let someone else take over. Robert nodded. You're right. But I want to make sure Luxury Motors stays in the right hands. After much thought, Robert made an announcement. Blake would be promoted to sales manager. Many were shocked, but Robert stood by his decision. People can change. I did. And so did he. The final drive. A year later, Robert finally retired. On his last day, employees gathered to thank him for what he had built. As he walked to his Mercedes, Blake stopped him. Mr. Chen, I just want to say, I'll make sure your legacy stays alive. Robert smiled. I know you will, Blake. As he drove away, Margaret's photo on the dashboard seemed to smile back at him. Luxury Motors wasn't just a dealership anymore. It was a lesson in kindness, respect, and second chances. And that was a legacy Robert Chen was proud to leave behind. The end.